to look out and see all these beautiful faces. And so many of my old friends have come out at night, and I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much. I wanted to talk tonight about some things about my life and about the life I've been through, and Jesus has always been with me. I don't recall an aha moment in my life. I think I just was born and Jesus was there. I don't know if it's because I was taught that when I was little and I bought it, but it stayed with me forever. And it grows stronger the older I get, believe me. I want to start with reading from Ecclesiastes 3, having to do with our seasons in life. And I think you've all heard this many times. And I'll share it with you again this evening. Ecclesiastes 3. I have my glasses here because I have trouble seeing. I've got my hearing aids so I can hear. And I've got notes so I don't fade out into La La Land. Because I love La La Land. So, anyway, Ecclesiastes 3. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. When I think through life, I'm just amazed I'm still here. I don't come from a family of longevity. I've outlived 2 generations. I'm astounded. I had my 83rd birthday 10 days ago. And I thought if I lived to be 100 and I divided my life into 4 seasons, it would be every 25 years. But in the 80s, I guess I could say every 20 years. And so I thought the first part of my life, I kind of look at my childhood and where I came from. I was born in Fort Worth, Texas. I was born into a family that had a lot of infertility and a lot of alcoholism. I had wonderful, wonderful parents. My father was an alcoholic, and I don't know how to explain alcoholism because I never heard my daddy raise his voice. He was a kind, gentle man. He was a chemist. He graduated from A&M back in the 30s. And he married my mother. He met her when she was 16, and he followed her around for 7 years because she had to quit high school and take care of her mother and daddy because her daddy had an accident. And back in the 30s and 20s, there wasn't disability. There wasn't anything like that. She just had all her sisters had grown up and left, and she was the only one left. So, but she had the sweetest nature, and I never, ever heard anything but appreciation and love come from my mother. And my daddy saw that in her. He adored her. And she adored him. And she told me years later, when I was grown one time, that she knew what he was like. She had dated him. She didn't expect to change him. And she married him. And the only thing I can think about that kind of life is it's kind of it isolates you. My mother gave up a lot of social life. My daddy would come home in the evening. We didn't have a car for many years because he drank and he didn't drive. And he would catch the bus home from his work, had a few drinks, He would come in, Mama had supper. They would sit and talk and talk and talk. He'd have a few more drinks, go to bed. And that was kind of how their life was. And I realize now, because my mother was a people person, and how sacrificial she was. But the big part of our life was my brother. I had one brother that was 2 years older than I was. He was born different. That's all we ever heard. He was just different. He wasn't like other people. When we were little, it didn't seem that big a deal. We were in a small little neighborhood. Everybody knew everything. As I got older, in the middle school and other schools came in, and then high school, I never knew what he'd do. I never knew what he'd say. I was very guarded about who I brought to my house because I didn't know what to expect. He was very inappropriate socially. And I lived with sometimes guilt. My parents did. They loved him so much. They spent their whole life trying to figure out what was wrong. And it wasn't until he was in his 40s they diagnosed him with Klinefelter syndrome, which is a genetic syndrome that he had an extra X chromosome. So he never fully developed. He was slow. He was socially inappropriate. He lived to be 52. He was sick all his life. He was on disability or so much. And I found as I got older, I just had to distance myself. He completely broke my mother and daddy. They had no money left when they died. When my mother died first and when my daddy died, there wasn't enough money for his gravestone. We had just finished going through 7 years of graduate school. And I remember I got a job at the zoo, writing curriculum. And I took the job that summer to buy him a headstone. And it broke my heart because they had sent me to college. And I look back now and they never told me. But now I know they sold their house to send me to college. They never owned another house. They struggled all their lives. But I never heard them complain. I once heard my mother say, our house and everything I had burned down to the ground, and I could look to the right and the left. And I saw you, and I saw your father, and I saw your brother. You'd be okay. And that taught me unconditional love. Because I knew my parents loved my brother just as much as they loved me. And I knew when I walked in that house, there were two people that loved me more than they loved themselves. So from that, in high school, I found myself distancing myself from people I wasn't comfortable with. I guess you'd want to say I was an outsider. I never went to a ball game, never went to a dance. A lot of the people I hung out with had dropped out of school. And in the 50s, that wasn't unusual. I had a real good girlfriend that dropped out of school in 10th grade because she didn't have enough money to pay for car fare and lunch. She had to go to work. And back in the 50s, you could find jobs where you would have a career the rest of your life. Many people could. And I think that taught me that there are people outside of right in your little bitty world. And my brother, there were some strange people that came around my brother. Some of them ended up in prison. I was very thankful he did because he was very easily manipulated. He was teased, he was bullied, he was the butt of the jokes. And that's why I didn't want people coming around I didn't feel comfortable with. And most of the people that came around me were from pretty dysfunctional families. I wasn't wild. I ran with some wild people. But I had a great love and respect for my parents. And I would have never wanted to dishonor them. Because I knew the kind of life they had led and how hard they worked. When I went off to college, It was a whole new world. All of a sudden, I was out there with everybody, and nobody knew anybody's family, and I really blossomed. I came out of college with friends that I have to this day. I had my roommate from 1958. She was my maid of honor. I was her maid of honor, and we're still the best of friends. And she lives in Minneapolis. But it was such a wonderful time. It was one of the best times of my life. And I went from there to a teaching job in Arlington. And my mother said, "You should go to church. You might meet some nice people." So I did. The first Sunday I was there, I met my husband. And we dated for 3 months. I didn't always tell everybody that, Hannah. That's my granddaughter. Anyway, I probably would have died if my boys had done that. But anyway, my mother and daddy were real good about, I'd finished college, and Richard had gone, when he got out of high school, he didn't want to go to college. He just wanted to get out of the house, and he joined the Air Force. So he'd come back, and he was going back to school to finish his engineering degree. And I was teaching that year. So that last year, we got married, and he finished his bachelor's and went to work. We moved up to Denver, of all places, and didn't know a living soul. And 15 months later, I had a little baby boy named Andy. And that changes your life forever. Yeah. And we were starting out, we still didn't know where we were going, and Richard decided to go back to Fort Worth because he wanted to get back into engineering. So when he got down there, he started going to night school, and then he found out that the GI Bill would send him to graduate school. So we headed up to Stillwater, Oklahoma for the next 4 years with 2 baby boys, no money, a 10-year-old car, and there we were. And he finished his doctorate up there, and we came down here. And while we were up there, we had another little baby boy named Blake. And Blake was an RH baby, which today, that's not a problem. But when I had my child, he had to be transfused. I don't know how he even survived it, but he did. And so we were on our way when we came down here. And I kind of look at the married years with 2 boys. I never had but one brother. I had one cousin who was 6 years older. And so I looked at the next 25 years in my years of testosterone. And it was nothing but, I didn't know a living soul in San Antonio. And it was just all the time, punch, loud, flopping down, saving them from their father, Males eat their young sometimes. So anyway, we got through that, and thank God they had a wonderful father, because I can't imagine raising 2 boys alone. You people, I have so many friends that were single mothers, and boy, do I hand it to you. I don't know how you did it. I had a lot of help, and it was hard. But when we came here, I decided to go back to teaching. I'd been out 8 years. So when I was telling Jenna earlier, I know how she feels when you come back. It's like overwhelming, I must have had all this time before. What was I doing with it? You really didn't. So anyway, I went back to teaching, and I found a whole new family there. And some of the people I taught with for 27 years, and they became my family. They're my sisters. And I have one here tonight, Barbara, because Barbara, we retired together, and we go on all kinds of crazy things. She's 2 years older than me, but I can't keep up with her. Absolutely can't. And then there's my little Lisa, that was my little student, and her mother worked with me too. And Lisa's my PR person. I can't get away from her. She tells everybody where I am and what I'm doing. So. Anyway. And you weren't like that when you were little. And she really was. She was very shy when she was little. But, yeah. So anyway, but my teaching, I was very proud to be a teacher. I loved being a teacher. I was so blessed to be in such a good place with good people and wonderful, wonderful children. As I went through the years, and I finally retired, I started working with CASA for about 10 years. And that's when I found I was kind of going back to my childhood, my years in high school. I knew a lot of those people, and I was very comfortable with them. And I loved being with them. And, I think everything was coming back to me where Jesus had been with me. And during my years in college and high school, I kind of forgot him. I mean, I didn't deny him, I just forgot him. I was too busy. And I think when I got married, my husband's the one. I met him at church because my mother told me to go. And he was the one everywhere you go would say, we need to find a church. And so when we came here, first thing we did was find a church. And that was in 1970, we joined St. Andrews. And my boys grew up here. I attribute a lot of their spiritualness, their love for God today with this church, and some of the good people that worked with them. They had a place in high school where they could go. They had a social group. They did a lot of neat things. And they were safe. They weren't pressured. They had an alternative to the keg parties because so many of their friends, that's where they had gone. And they didn't choose to go that route. So I was so thankful for this church. And as we got older, we started out in a class here that was about 25 young married couples. I was 29 when I came here. And I'm the last one left. They're all gone. Some moved, many have passed away. But we had that memory. And those were my husband's closest friends. As the boys grew up, they went off, and I don't know, when they got off, I was kind of having trouble getting my husband to keep going, but he would come, every so often. And I found in my later years that everything in my life now is coming back so much to Jesus and to church. And I have been through 8 ministers here. I wasn't real happy with all of them. They weren't real happy with me either, probably. But I found everybody had something to offer. And it's the people. It's the people. I now attend a Sunday school class that's been going on over 25 years or so. And we look after each other. We come every Sunday. We check each other out. Many of them don't have any other family here. I go to a lunch bunch that Virginia started on Thursdays. And we originally kind of started, we would have lunch, bring our lunch, and we'd do a little project. And now we have a devotional of some kind. Sometimes we do a study. But the part I didn't expect was losing my husband 14 months ago. And I had no idea what was going to come from this church and the people. And in that group of ladies, I found Virginia and I counted one day, I think we had about 11 widows. And what I have learned from them, because they know. When the last days when I was with Richard in the hospital, and I was staying with him night and day, one of my teacher friends and one of my women at the well friends was texting me constantly, telling me they'd been there. They were telling me what to expect. The days after, they were saying, look after yourself. Do this, do that. And that group when Jenna first came, I went the first 3 years to that Women at the Well, and nearly everybody in there was much younger than me. But I had no idea when I was at my lowest point in life, they would be coming out of the woodwork. Our women of faith, we still have a little group of women in this church that go up in their 90s. And we still get together twice a month. And again, we check on each other. We're looking after each other. Nearly all of us don't have family here. I never thought I'd have the day that my next of kin would be 2 grandchildren. And, you know, I was driving them around all their life, and now they're driving me around. So it all comes back around, yeah. My sons married 2 of the most godly women I know. I couldn't have picked them out better. They come from, they are as good to me as they are their mothers, and that's a real tribute to their mothers, I think, because the fact that they love their mothers so much, they can love me. And I love them because I'm so glad somebody's looking after them. I'm tired. Anyway, I was telling my daughter-in-law today that. I said, I just appreciate you so much. You know, and she said, well, yeah, but then I gave you somebody else to worry about. I said, no, but then you gave me grandchildren. So that was the star in the crown. And my grandchildren came like bang, 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 bang. You know, I had first Hannah, then I had Bethany, and these were all a year apart. Then a boy, Caleb, and then a boy, Micah. So life was complete. I couldn't imagine. You know, I finally had my girls. You know, I'm amazed when I was sick and things, the girls would think of things that the guys just don't think about. You know, and many things the guys don't think about. Yeah. Like you need something. Anyway, and I had a wonderful husband. We were 4 months short of our 60th anniversary when he died. And I look back at those years, and they weren't easy. I mean, marriage is hard. But I look back to where I came from with my parents. I knew there were going to be problems. I didn't expect perfection. I didn't expect a lot of money. I expected someone to support me. And that's what I got. And there were times, you know, I was ready to divide up the silver and head out the door. But there was never anywhere to go. So, anyway, that was one advantage of not living close to family, I guess, yeah. But anyway, I loved Richard so much, and we had an incredible life. You know, we went all over the world, we did wonderful things. After all his years in school, I remember he came to me one day and said, you know, I would make any sacrifice for you to go back to school. I never even thought about it. And I went back and got my master's and then got my counseling certification. I'd have never done that. It just never occurred to me. And the fact that he was willing to support me because I had supported him all those years. And anyway, we were just very, very blessed. And I think when I went to that Women at the Well too, it gave me a chance to reach out to people here I never knew. I would have never known Natalie. There'd be no Ethel. Anyway, what a blessing that has been with friends I've had all my life. And when I come to the end, and I was thinking the other day when we were at the hospital at the end and we were all around the bed, and I thought of all the good times and the bad times, and I thought, thank you, Jesus, we made it. We're all here. We're loving each other. We got through it. We got past all the junk. And it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. And as far as this point in life, I'm finding I'm so at peace. And I think the reason is why, first of all, Jesus, he's here with me. He's always been here with me. He didn't leave me Sometimes I walked off and left him. But I know I have no bad feelings about anybody. I've forgiven anything ever happened to me. I'm not mad at anybody. And I think that's something we need to really think about when you get older. You won't find peace unless you let go of that stuff. Don't be envious. Don't be mad. It didn't matter. It really doesn't. I'm where I am, and I'm okay. And I know God's going to be with me till I take my last breath. I wanted to share one more thing with you from Micah, which is my grandson's name, by the way. My grandchildren all have biblical names. I thought that was interesting. Oh, it's Isaiah. I'm in the wrong place. I'm back off again. Okay. Even in your old age and gray hairs, I am He. I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. And He will. I know He will. I want to end with something, and I hope I don't mess it up, but something that I've sung to myself since childhood, and I don't sing like I used to. I don't do anything like I used to. Anyway. Okay. Does Jesus care when I've said goodbye to the dearest on earth to me, and my sad heart aches till it nearly breaks? Does He care? Does He know? Does He see? Oh yes, He cares. I know He cares. His heart is touched with my grief. When the days are weary, the long nights dreary, I know my Savior cares. Thank you.